So I'm back with my RetroPie AliExpress Raspberry Pi Zero kit thing. I built it all up and it works. So there is instructions in the box. They tell you how to actually build the thing. They're not particularly great instructions. If you look, you can see that there are the long standoffs at the front, at the bottom of the screen. They go downwards with a screw sticking out. I didn't get any of these nuts. I happen to have some of these kicking about, otherwise I wouldn't have them. Screw in at the top. Then there is a medium-sized standoff between the Raspberry Pi itself and the screen board, with the nut pointing up, I believe. No, I believe it. Sorry, it may be pointing down. Then there's a small standoff with the screw pointing down, a screw on the top, a spacer in between the base and the Raspberry Pi, and then the screw in the bottom. You screw it all together. It's not particularly difficult to do. You can link the lanyard over there. Basically pop your SD card in. Before you pop your SD card in, you need an operating system, and the instructions that AliExpress provide, they do point you to 3 options for operating systems. The options that they give you are for a Raspberry Pi Zero W that I have, I believe a Raspberry Pi version 2, which I don't have, and then a setup version which a guy has written, and it's based around Diet Pi, and that's pre-configured, and that's the version I ended up using. I have tried to use the other version, but the first thing that actually comes up is, while the screen comes up, it says all your controls aren't working. Now, there's probably a way of getting in and SSHing and adjusting the controls and setting them all up, but as the Diet Pi version worked, I just used that. When it came, the Diet Pi version had 2 ROMs built into its image. It had an N64 game and a Game Boy Advance game. The Game Boy Advance game seems to run okay. That's a Pokemon game. The N64 game ran a bit lumpy. I'm not sure if I can actually get into it. Probably get into it on here. But this is the Raspberry Pi W version 1. The W version 2 is either double the speed or 4 times the speed, I believe. So that would probably run substantially better. So let's leave this for a moment. Normally the only thing you can do to find out whether this is actually really doing anything is look round the side, and there's a little green light on there on the Raspberry Pi, and that says, right, we're loading, we're doing something. Now, in a second, it'll load. Now this I don't expect to load particularly well. So that's the sound running. If I push the L button and up, I believe I can turn the sound, the volume up. The problem is, like everything on this thing, everything is very, very small. Strangely enough, this is still running. It's just that the horsepower for this is just not enough, to be quite honest. Yeah, if you look around the side, that little LED is blinking away like mad. Oh, and here we go. We've got a cutscene. So it is working. It's zipping along, but it's just not really up to it. So if I push L1 and start, that should kick me out. Yep, so it's kicked me out, about cut to that menu. If we go and try and have a look at something a bit more usable. So Game Boy Advance. The other problem is I've got my glasses on. I can barely read any of these things. So there may be a way to set up so that you've got the box art on here. But let's come down to Mario Kart. Oops, that's too loud. That's so. As you can see, we've got an okay screen. The screen resolution's not right, but what are you going to do? Okay, single player game, one player, 50cc. Let's have Yoshi. Mushroom Cup. You see, it will play, but you've now got the next problem. And so we're moving. I can just about steer on these tiny little controls. And a lot of retro games are live. There's not that many good puzzle games. You might find that something like Pokemon will do you very well, or some of the Game Boy Final Fantasy games, as long as you can read the text. I mean, is this working? Yeah. Would I really want to sit and play a whole race on this thing? We've got top buttons. So that worked. Oh, I fired off a shell using the L button. Yep. So am I going to win? Oh, I'm coming second. But this is a 50cc race. Oops. I wanted to push the L button to drop my banana. No, but because it's such a pig to steer and hold at the same time, I'm really not going to. So if I push start and double push the L button, it'll kick me out. Not even sure what else I put on here. Super Mario Advance. I mean, it looks kind of cool, but there's so many issues on there. So let's pause that for a moment. So the problem being is it's basically just too small to actually use nicely. So you might be able to get some role-playing games on there to actually run. It's a fun little thing to muck about with. Conceivably, somebody could 3D print a joystick cap. You could print something which sits over the top, something which sits down very hard against there, and then effectively rocks backwards and forwards to push the buttons. My Fusion 360 is not good enough really to do that, but it shouldn't be too impossible to actually do. These buttons are okay, but they're very, very small together. What else have we got to say? Battery sits in there. It tells you that it comes with a little plastic strip to double-sided tape to stick it down, but I haven't. Mine didn't, so I'm going to put double-sided sponge tape in. Can't get around the fact that the micro SD card sticks out ever so slightly. Not a lot you can actually do about that, apart from maybe make yourself a bigger case, but it's not going to make the device any bigger. There's not a lot you can do. It's a fun little thing to muck about with. I haven't actually plugged the headphones in yet, so I will actually look at doing that at some stage. I also haven't plugged in the HDMI out. There's a chance that the HDMI will output as well. If that works, could you output it to a screen? Yeah, there is Bluetooth on the thing. Could you use an 8-bit DOE controller or something like that and play it on a screen? Yeah, but say it's not going to be the best in there at the moment. I think given all things, if you want to play around with this thing, do so. If not, buy a Miu Mini or one of the Trim UI ones. One of the things I mentioned earlier on when I wasn't recording or was recording and the system mucked about was how to move files over. I had hell's own job moving files over. The retro documentation says you can format a USB drive as either FAT32 or exFAT, make a folder called RetroPie, put it on there in the root directory, plug it into the device while the device is on, and the device will find the USB drive and configure that directory. So it'll configure the directory and it'll say, right, okay, here's your Game Boy games, here's your Game Boy Advance games, and from there you'll be able to then take the USB stick out, plug it into your computer and get it to play your games, get it to copy your games over. And while I could do the first part, plugged it in, it never generated the directories for me, so it never actually worked. The second thing I attempted to do was pull the micro SD card out, put it in an SD card reader, plug it into a Windows PC, and then move the games over from there. The problem with that is Windows doesn't particularly like Linux file system, and while it would find some files, I think the drive actually got formatted into 2 partitions and it wouldn't find the other partition. There's probably ways of finding the other partition and moving stuff over from there. So I failed on that. So we've got Tetris running on here just out of interest. Yep, there you go. Tetris runs. Oh, something's pushed down. That's because my button's probably stuck. Are you stuck? Or is it self-playing? That's interesting. It might be playing a demo, to be quite honest. So I couldn't get my files over. So in the end, I had to go into the RetroPie and then go into the Wi-Fi and set the Wi-Fi up, and I could transfer things over by FTP. It was about the only way I could get stuff to go over. But I say, I don't think I'd recommend it. There's other ways of playing your retro games, and you can play them on your phone probably as well as easily as this. So I might put this on Reddit or via YouTube because it might be helpful to somebody.